Welcome to Wednesday's class. Today I'm going to run through the binary to decimal algorithm, and then we are going to have a separate video that also shows us how to code this into our converter program. First off, we're going to start with a general example of what we did in class yesterday, where if we have the binary number of 11101, how we approached converting that into a decimal number. And what we did is we actually took that number and we split it into a bunch of individual digits because we put each in its own little placeholder. So for this one, we're going to represent this by taking our number and we're actually going to split it into an array. And what this does is it takes every character, in this case every digit, and puts it in its own position in the arrays. So if we looked over here, this would be index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and index 4. But if you remember what we did in class, we actually started on the right side, or in this case, we would have started with the pink number 1. Unfortunately, our computers really only work well from left to right often. So what we can do to combat this is instead of working backwards, let's flip the array so that it looks as if we're going forwards through it, but we're actually starting from the quote-unquote right side. And you can see that by the color coordination of the original value. If I started pink, orange, blue, green, red, now this direction after flipping it is pink, orange, blue, green, and red. So we're going to flip around the array. So we're actually going to start at the very first index. What we're going to also do is eventually take the summation of all these digits and their total value in the equation that we end up writing. So that means like, hey, this digit has a value of 1. This digit has a value of 2. This digit has a value of 4. And we go on and so on like that. So we start and we create this variable that just is going to hold the total sum of each of these variables. Boom. There it is. 0 sounds like a great number to start at. Then we're going to go through every single one of these digits. And the way that we look at this again is this is a repetitive behavior. We're going to be taking something, multiplying it by its value, and adding it to the sum. Well, that sounds like a for loop if I've ever heard of one. And the best part is that we know exactly how many times this is going to run because we need to run this once for every digit that we have. So we're going to go ahead and run a for loop that is going to find out how many characters are in the array or how long the array is, and we're going to iterate through every item in that list. And so what we're going to do for each of these items, as you can see this pop up down here, where the first thing we're going to do is convert that digit into a number. Notice all of them have these little quotations around them. When we read things from a text box, like we are our number, you can think of them as words. Unfortunately, they have no numerical value. So we're going to take the word versions of these numbers, and the first thing we're going to do is convert them into their numerical values. We can start doing math with them once they are like that. The next thing that we're going to do is we have to look at this, and if we were going to do this in class, we would take this pink digit 1 and we'd write underneath it 2 to the 0 power, because that is what the value of that digit is. Well, as I mentioned in class, what we're going to utilize here is our I variable, because we're going to take whatever digit we find first in our list, aka this pink digit here, and we're going to multiply it by 2 to the 0 power. That I variable in my for loop starts at 0 at the very first iteration. Also at index 0 seems to be the digit that I'm interested in first as well. So this is going to be something that we take the digit at index 0, we multiply it by this equation that includes 2 to the 0 power. That will give us the grand total value of that pink digit. From there, once we get that, we are going to take that value and add it to the decimal sum that we are trying to work for. And so you can see that if I take 1, the pink value we have here, multiply it by 2 to the I, or 2 to the 0, I have a total value of 1 that was added to my total. Second iteration, we're going to do the same exact thing. But this time around, notice your I value updates to the number 1. So we are going to access index number 1 to grab this second element of our array. We would have gone straight to this orange number if we were doing it in class. And we're going to multiply it by what its value is. And again, that exponent just seems to go up by 1 as we move to the left of our digit up here. Well, our exponent, if we use the I variable, does go up by 1 as well. So this 2 to the I is really powerful right now because it's changing every iteration we run through. Next iteration through, we're going to grab the second index, that's the blue number, raise it from 2 to the I power, or I will be 2 at this point. Repeat the same thing for the next one. I grab my index number 3, I take my 2 to the ith power, multiply them together. This variable that we have is just continually being added to as we get to each digit. There's one final digit to do, that is 1, and then we multiply it again by 2 to the I power. So you can see that I variable going 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 before we actually get to the end. Congratulations, once we finish this loop, we've ran through every item in our list. We are going to go ahead and get a summation and return that value to the user. This is the idea of how we're going to do this. Now, conveniently on the left-hand side, I have the algorithm that I just talked about. On the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and see how this actually works code-wise. And I know that it's really tempting right now to just stop here, type this in. I'm going to have a second video that I'm going to be typing this in with you guys and getting your programs hopefully working before I get back. So we started off by saying, hey, let's take our binary number, split it up into each individual digit. That is what this line of code is doing right here. So our function we're going to write is going to be called binary to decimal. We're taking a binary number, converting it to decimal. And in order to do that, you are going to have to give me some sort of a binary number. Now remember, this is very likely entering as a string. So what we're going to do then, we're going to take it, we're going to split it up by providing empty quotations here. This means that we're going to say you can split it up every time you see nothing, which in a sense is, if you use these empty quotes, we're going to split it up every single character that you run into. There are times where you can split this by, like if you have a sentence, you can type dot split and put a space in there, and it would separate every word that you want. But we split it up. The next thing we do is we reverse it as well. This is then where the idea of the loop is going to start. We run through our variable. This is our counter that has the summation, the final decimal answer started at 0. We find out how long our binary string is. That is just the binary number that we have split up into its individual digits. Basically just finding out how many digits are there. For loop started at 0. As long as I is less than the number of digits. Remember, if we start at 0 and we go up by 1s, this is how many times we are iterating through our loop. Conveniently, that's the same number of digits we have in our variable, or in our binary number that we were given, and we just calculated that right up here. From there, we're going to take our binary string. This is again the reversed order of our binary number. We're going to access element 0 first time through. It is going to be a word, so we are going to convert it into a number and store it in a variable. This again just grabs onto whatever's in index 0. If I was going to go to that last slide, that was like the pink number that we had. From there, our final answer, we're going to add something to it. And this is the calculation that we did earlier, where we say, take the digit that actually shows up in the problem and multiply it by 2 to the 0 power. First iteration through here, I variable is 0. So now that's going to run through again and again and again, each iteration grabbing a new element from our list. Each iteration also adding 1 to the exponent for the value of each placeholder. Once that loop runs through, we return our variable here. So again, this is something that we're going to have to work together on, and this is going to be something in a separate video as well, of running through an algorithm prior to coding it to really understand what you are about to code. I will see you guys on the other video.